Hey, we're making homemade pesto. Frank is here from Josephine's, one of my favorite Italian restaurants. Love, love, love their pizzas. They also do a lot of different pastas, salads, all sorts of different things. Hey, good to see you, Frank.
Hey, good to see you, Amy.
So homemade pesto sauce is actually very, very simple, and it's so delicious. And so many recipes, call for pesto sauce, or you can just do a ton of different things with homemade pesto sauce.
Right. Yep. You can use pine nuts. That's what we use. Some people can use walnuts if you don't have pine nuts laying around the house.
So this is the classic recipe that I think once you start getting the hang of it, you'll do it over and over and over again. It's especially nice to do in the summer when you've got mounds of fresh basil and some great fresh ingredients. But any time of year, you can buy fresh basil now at the grocery store. But it takes quite a bit of basil, right?
It does. It really does. About 8 ounces.
Okay. So. Yep. And it tends to disappear. So sometimes I'll stretch it with basil and fresh spinach, just to stretch it a little bit. So we're going to toast the pine nuts. And Frank, you had a tip for that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, my tip is I use, so I don't burn them, but I use a little bit of olive oil. And I use about an ounce of pine nuts, or a couple tablespoons. And then you heat those, and we're toasting them. Now, what I've learned is once they start to toast and turn brown, some of them, that's when you want to remove them from the heat. Because if you wait till they're all toasty, by then you're burning a couple.
I understand. And the thing is that most times people ask me, how do you toast nuts? I say just put them in a dry pan. But pine nuts seem to be really, really sensitive, I guess is the word, and touchy. And so they can go from, and they're pricey, so they can go from, toasted to burned in seconds. So
absolutely.
I'm going to start doing olive oil. I think that's a great idea. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. Don't let me get talking and forget about that. I'm known to do that. So let those hang out. But what, just a minute or two?
Yeah, just a couple of minutes at the most.
Okay.
Otherwise they burn quick, you're right.
And pine nuts are delicious. They're the classic ingredient for this recipe, but other substitutions, like you say, walnuts would work.
Walnuts, yep. Some people do it with almonds.
So, whatever, but the nuts really do help in this recipe. They kind of bring it together. All right, what's next?
Okay, so then what we'll do is take the food processor and we put a couple handfuls of fresh basil in there.
Okay, about 8 ounces as Frank said.
Yep, and about a cup of parm, and I'll kind of put that in a little bit, and we'll kind of add that later as we go. I just kind of want to get a little bit started.
Okay, now then fresh Parmesan, grated Parmesan cheese.
Yep, and then usually, depending on how much, about three garlic cloves.
Now look, these are already toasted, and so, and that olive oil just really helps get them nice and golden, and then just take them off the heat at this point?
Yep, take them off the heat, let them cool down, then we'll put them right in here in about a minute. So then I do a little salt and pepper to get started.
I'm going to back you up, Frank. How many cloves of garlic did you put in there?
I put in 3 or 4.
3 or 4?
Depending on the size.
And you put them in whole. You don't need to chop them.
You don't need to chop them. This is going to do your chopping for you.
Okay, all right. So a little bit of salt.
A little salt and pepper. We usually use about a quarter teaspoon of each for this recipe.
Okay.
And then you can start pulsating that.
We're doing it in a food processor. You can also do it in a blender.
Yep. And then you kind of slowly, I would do about 2/3 of a cup of olive oil. If you don't have olive oil, you can use salad oil. That'll work also. And then we'll put in some more of that parm.
So what are we looking for?
You want to do this until it's pretty smooth, almost smooth, not really smooth. You don't want to overdo it. Like a little texture to it. It'll start to almost look creamy, and that cheese starts to really get in there. I'm just going to put the rest of our salt and pepper in there. Again, about a quarter teaspoon, maybe a little bit more pepper.
So it's one of those things you just kind of got to feel your way through. I understand. Because sometimes, you need more oil.
And the pine nuts, we'll put those in now.
Nuts come in now.
Yep. You can take that off there and dump them right in there.
And see how they just toasted up. That olive oil did the trick.
It really does.
I love that.
If you don't use olive oil, then they turn burnt really quick.
Yeah, they get a little scary. I'm going to drain some pasta. We're using Angel here. So there's so many things that you can do with pesto sauce. What are some of your suggestions besides we're going to toss a little bit with pasta, but what are some of the other ideas that you've got to do?
We put it on a little dish, put it right in your refrigerator, put it right next to your mayo, and when you want to do a pesto mayo, just kind of mix them together. We use it on everything.
Yeah, there's
Yep.
so many
Crunchy
things.
bread, crusty
Yeah.
bread like that, yep.
Oh, a little tomato, fresh tomato, and you know, when the tomatoes are ripe in the summer, put it on chicken, put it on a little bit on like a piece of salmon.
Yep.
Like if you make this, you know, size batch, about how long would that last in your fridge?
It lasts a couple weeks in the fridge.
Okay.
Yep, we usually use it up on our pizza too, because a lot of people order it as their substitute sauce. You know, instead of olive oil or Alfredo, they'll get pesto. And then, of course, mixing it with Alfredo, you have creamy pesto.
Oh yeah, so there you go. Tons of things you can do with homemade pesto sauce. We're going to take just a little bit of it, and a little goes a long way, right, Frank? I mean, this
Absolutely.
is
Oh,
like
yeah. You don't
strong
need a lot,
stuff.
right.
And I like to toss it just with hot pasta. Josephine's 2 locations. You're in Howard,
Yep.
right off of Velp near St. John's School, right across the street from that, and a new location in Appleton.
Yep, right on Wisconsin Ave, about a mile from the wall.
And if you haven't been there, tried it, you need to. Family-run business. They really do a nice job. Fantastic pizza. I love their sausage and mushroom pizza, but some really great pastos and homemade pesto too.
Yep,
Ooh.
and it looks delicious.
Yeah, a little more Parmesan cheese on that. What do you think?
Yep, we could do that.
All right. Thanks so much,
You
Frank.
betcha. All righty, thank you.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.